You stick Richard's hand up.
Getting statistics show that 1 in 800 babies are born every year with some kind of cleft a defect. This was written in an article by Iona Baldridge in the McGill Medical Guide in January of 2013. Whenever people see babies that are born like with cleft palates or cleft lip, they tend to think, oh, this baby's going to have a hard life, and this baby is going to have all kinds of issues and stuff going on because of the way they look, not because it's necessarily what's happened to them. Back in 1960, I was a statistic. I was born with a cleft palate. So was my older brother, who was born in 1956. Cleft palate is a congenital defect. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention has stated that between the 6th and 9th week of a woman's pregnancy is when the roof of the mouth begins to fuse. During that time, if there's any kind of interference, then that's where a cleft will occur. And depending on the timing of the fusion is when the type of cleft will occur. There are two types of cleft. There is a cleft palate, like I had, and my brother. There is also what's called a cleft lip. And there's a cleft lip will have one or two variations. It'll be either unilateral, which is the one split, or it will be bilateral, which is two splits. A cleft palate can have a variation as well, which is the partial cleft palate. My oldest son, Ryan, was born with a partial cleft palate. With it, a cleft palate is not it can be hereditary. In my family, we cannot see back how far, as far as we've seen, we cannot figure out where the hereditary comes from, so we don't know that it's hereditary. With my son Ryan, because I had cleft palate and he had a partial cleft, his could be considered hereditary. When a baby with a cleft or cleft lip is born, of course they have issues. The first is sucking. They can't suck like a normal baby does because they have no roof, they have no way to pull in to suck. So when they go to try to take a bottle of milk, the milk usually comes back up out through the nose. So what they have to do is they have to take a nipple, make a larger hole in the nipple so that the milk will flow more easily, and it will then go down into the baby's stomach and the baby will be fed. Babies can also have problems with maybe colds or ear infection because they do not at that time have a roof in their mouth. And later on, you can have the problems of hearing loss. You still have problems with ear infection, and also have speech problems as well. My brother and I were born with each born with cleft palate. When he was born, they didn't know, and first he had a cleft palate, so they did not know the reason the milk kept coming back out of his nose. They did discover it finally, but it wasn't repaired until when I was born. They found I had a cleft palate. So at 9 months old, my brother was about 4 years old then, we had surgery. The surgeon performed our surgery together, and it took about 7.5 hours to do the repairs. Whenever my son Ryan was born, we immediately found out that he had a partial cleft palate, whereas the palate was formed partially, but it was a split in the back, and he had no uvula. Well, they waited till he was about 7.5 months old. Doctors normally will not perform surgeries before 9 months, but in Ryan's case, with a partial cleft palate, they performed it at 7 months. Once he had the surgery, when we brought him home, he had to have a special bottle that had a long, skinny tube where we could kind of force the milk into his mouth that would automatically go down into his stomach because he was not allowed to suck, because if he did, it would pop the stitches. He also, during this time, had to wear these cute little things. These are bracelets. They're hard plastic, and for him, it covered him pretty much from here to here. And so he wore those for the entire time until we went back and was released by the doctors that everything was okay. On the website for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, it has a place for cleft palate articles, and as well as the picture of before and after for children who have had cleft lip and cleft palate repairs. And the stories also go along with it. The stories they had, one of them that I read, but kind of mirrored the son, like my son Ryan. When he was about between 3 and 4 years old, he had to have speech therapy. But back during the time when we were actually in Illinois, where he was born, we had to go back and forth to Chicago for a, once a month, a geneticist opened her office, and cleft lip and cleft palate children would come in and see a group of 7 different doctors. They could be medical doctors, dentists, ENTs, surgeons, but they saw the whole group. After they met with them, then the doctors would all get together. They would report their findings in a report, and they would be sent to my husband and I and to our doctor. That was very interesting and very informative. When we moved, we had to make some changes because the place we moved to did not have that same kind of setup. But kids today, they get speech therapy. They get, sometimes they have to have tubes put into their ears, which eventually work themselves out. My son Ryan had to eventually have his adenoids moved. But as you see on this website, the children have the transformation from the, whether it's just where you can't see the cleft itself, where you can see where the cleft lip is. Some are very extensive. And it's amazing seeing the transformation. Not only is it a transformation for them physically, but it will for them as they grow up be a transformation inside as well, for their self-esteem, their self-confidence. They look like the other kids. They can perform like the other kids. And with the technology, medical technology, and the specialists and surgeons that we have now, the transformation seems like it's just effortless. And these children, like myself, they do grow up to be happy, healthy individuals. Thank you.
6.5 minutes.
Yes.
I thought Mom was going to reach out there